Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It has been a long week, and I say that mainly because today's Thursday, and these usually go out on Sunday. It's not going to be as good as last week was. I'm away. I also didn't get to watch sports this weekend, hence why I've been waiting. So let's just hop straight into it. First, we're going to talk about the Premier League, obviously, and I am, of course, going to talk about Man United. They lost. Good news. So did everyone else. I didn't see any of the highlights of any of the other games. I watched the first half-ish hour of the Man United game, and it was bad. No words, just bad, just bad. Um, but yeah, luckily though, I saw Chelsea lost 3-1 as well. Liverpool lost to Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace are now the only undefeated team in the Premier League, so that's kind of funny, kind of cool. Man City won, but they kind of had 12 men there. To score 2 own goals is impressive, I think. That's rather impressive. Tottenham dropped points. Arsenal won. But yeah, Chelsea lost, Liverpool lost. So it was a big weekend, actually. I think it'll be fine. Obviously, Newcastle lost because they played Arsenal. But yeah, a lot of drop points this weekend, which is very interesting. Again, I didn't get to watch. I didn't get to see. Apparently, there's a big VAR decision. I'll probably talk about that next week. I don't think the Premier League or the Champions League is my focus on sports this week. I will get into it. I don't know what I'm going to title this either, but I think I'll just go with what I was going to say initially, anyways. What else happened? Let's go into the Champions League. Champions League, Rasmus Højlund scored a brace. And Kevin De Bruyne assisted him twice, which is not something that a lot of people thought they would say at the beginning of the year. And you know what? Yeah, I'm very glad. I'm very happy that Højlund's doing well. Now I see a lot of people on the internet being like, "Oh, look, Højlund has now more goals than blah 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 blah," and Man United's not the problem, or Man United's the problem. But honestly, it's what I will continue to say. These are the same people who spent all of last year bashing him if he didn't score a goal. And if he did score a goal, they'll downplay it, right? Yes, the Man United striker position is the most feared position of all time because you have to drop deep to get the ball. And instead of, playing like an actual striker. That's something that fundamentally needs changing with the players who are on the field at Man United. But the media like to take every inch and turn it into a mile at Man United. And it's just like you attack players ridiculously. And then when they're given time and space to grow elsewhere, when they do anything well, you build them up because you want to bring down Man United. And I mean, Man United fans do it too. I'm not going to say that they don't. And I hate that they do it. Yeah. It's just annoying. PSG won against Barcelona. Real Madrid played somewhere in Europe and absolutely battered them. Liverpool lost to Galatasaray. That was pretty cool to see. Tottenham dropped points to Bodo Glimt, which they played them last season as well. So that's pretty interesting. That's, you know what, Bodo Glimt have come a long way to be able to play in the Champions League and to play Tottenham again in the Champions League and to, take a point. I'm trying to think of what else. There was nothing that I could really think of in the Champions League that was super crazy that I saw. I obviously didn't watch. Again, I've been away, so next week might be better with my information. But let's go on to what I did want to talk about, and part of the reason why I've been delaying talking, except for just being busy, playoff baseball. Now I want to start playoff baseball by getting into build up to playoff baseball, and I was right. What can I say?
Stanky, and I'm here to talk about the Mets, baby. Yeah, they're shit.
Mets are still shit. It's really funny. It's really funny, and I could make a whole video about this. I probably won't, but condolences to my friends. The two of them that I know are Mets fans. Um, but also I can't help but laugh to miss the playoffs altogether while having that expensive of a team, while being so good at the beginning of the season. The drop off was phenomenal, and to miss it by losing, it wasn't you missed it by winning. It wasn't, you gave it your all at the end. The Yankees, they missed, they're in the wild card right now, and I think they're currently winning as I'm speaking, but they're in the wild card right now, despite, what they had tried towards the end of the season. Now, in the middle of the season, you could talk about how they sucked, and they did. And I'm going to get into that later. And the Mets did have spells of suck. And, they were one game away, and people point to a whole bunch of games where they just didn't win, down one run. They couldn't make a comeback, a single comeback. And that's true. They just needed one game at the end against the Marlins, which sounds like deja vu. But like they really couldn't dig in and win something at the end. Even like against the Reds, who are already out of the postseason. It's been extremely quick. But it is what it is, isn't it? And uh, sorry for Mets fans, but now it's time to move on to, the good teams. And I I don't like making predictions for things. Sometimes I'm right, and when I'm right, I'm right. But I don't want to, jinx anything for anybody. Um, but yeah, Blue Jays are the one seed, and I was gonna name this originally like, oh, the Blue Jays bottled it, even if they did win, and they did win the division. They did clinch the best record in the league, in the American League. But oh boy, did they make it stressful. They were 7 games up at some point. They just decided they didn't want to win. They just didn't want to win games. They wanted to, make it interesting. And oh boy, did they make it interesting because, like I said before, the Yankees also swept their last series. All right, they lost because they were stupid in the middle of the season and didn't take their games against other division rivals as seriously as they should have. They just treat every game the same, and it backfired. And now they are in Game 3 of their wild card against the Red Sox, and I currently believe they're winning 1-0, but they could very easily lose, and it's season over, and it's disappointment in New York all over again. And even if they win, then they're just right back in the position that they could have been in if they just done a little bit more during the regular season against the team that beat them and has beaten them in the regular season and has had their number. So it's not a good look for them. Now, if we move on, like I said, the Reds, the Reds beat the Mets to the playoffs and instantly decided October wasn't for them. So they're out. They're the first team to be eliminated, and the Dodgers are going to be playing the Phillies, and I think that's going to be very exciting for everyone but Dodgers and Phillies fans. Um, but it will be something else, and the Dodgers aren't as good as they were last year, but they are still the Dodgers. And you're gonna have another Shohei versus Schwarber, and it's gonna be really electric. And it's gonna be the first 2 games in Philly as well. So hopefully, the Phillies pull out, 2-0, and then it becomes less interesting. If it's 1-1, then you really have some games going back into LA that'll be fun. One of the things I do like about watching baseball highlights really quickly is in the postseason is just the roar of the crowd is just a fun thing to hear. It's reminiscent of me just watching like an important Premier League game. We've gotten to that time of the year where you can really hear the excitement. And you can really hear it's like palpable tension when the home team is losing versus when when a home player will hit a home run in the bottom of the inning. You could hear the electricity. And then finally, also the Padres just recently did get eliminated, and so did the Guardians. I kind of expected the Guardians to lose. I think that the Tigers are better, and the Padres losing is just kind of funny. I mean, they were playing in Chicago. They were playing in Wrigley Field. It was going to happen. Okay. Um, and now the Cubs play the Brewers, and that's going to be very interesting. Two very good teams there, and the Tigers and Mariners. I'm going to be honest with you. It's kind of like the ball's in the Mariners' court, but at the same time, they haven't done well against good teams, which makes this very exciting. If they could, beat the Tigers, and they could have a good run. Although, it only gets harder from there. But if they get off to a bad start, it could be over very quickly for them. And then you have a Tigers team in the LCS that you would think at the beginning of September, you would have been like, yeah, well, they're kind of good enough to be there. But at the end of September, you wouldn't have expected that at all because they kind of just fell off. But yeah, that's enough about baseball. I will talk more about it next week. Uh, Hopefully, the Blue Jays don't lose, so then I have something good to talk about next week. And I'll obviously start with the Yankees Red Sox games that are currently going on. All right, now moving on very quickly to the NFL. And uh, what happened? I believe in the past week, the the Tigers, the Lions beat the Ravens, which I don't watch, but that's pretty cool. And they decided that after playing the cheese of Wisconsin, that they could actually score points and play well. The Eagles won again. I do know people who are Eagles fans, and I have heard like even though that they are 4-0, people there are Eagles fans who are like it's the end of the world. The Jets lost the mid-off against the Dolphins, but the Dolphins lost Tyreek Hill for the rest of the year. So honestly, it kind of feels like a lose-lose scenario. It really does. Um, the Giants won a game, I believe, against the Chargers, which is ridiculous because the Giants shouldn't be winning, but that's irrelevant. And yeah, that's all I really had to say about that. I think I saw Alabama beat Georgia in college football recently, but yeah, again, I am sorry for this coming out so late and it being, not really edited, but I am away. So, you know, it is what it is. Next week, it will not come out on Sunday. I will be traveling again, but it will be similar to last week's video and it will probably come out around Tuesday, Wednesday. So be prepared for that. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I will talk to you about next week's sports next week. That has been This Week in Sports.